Joey's Food Hole is recorded in a live audience building. They were there, you just didn't hear them. Hi, welcome to the Food Hole. Today, we are going to be making bread, whether you like it or not. Now, I'm sure you know what bread is, and if you don't, how? Some knowledge of bread that we're going to be explaining is the composition of our dough. Here. Fun fact, it's not real, it's in post because I didn't have the proper ingredients. And how this is going to affect our end product, sourdough bread. I guess the ingredients are here now. I didn't put those there. Dave, where'd the ingredients come from, bud? You don't know either. Alright, we're just gonna roll with it. Ethereal bread is just as good as normal bread. Alright, so, as I said before, the bread that we'll be making is sourdough. Why sourdough? It's one of the few breads I could think of to make that involved a lot of microbiology, as well as I actually eat it. So we're gonna have to go off with some of our wonderfully displayed ingredients. First off, we got our bread flour right here. Now you need to get bread flour and not regular flour. See, because if you do get regular flour, it's not going to rise properly, and it's not really going to be that good of bread. You're going to get some of that lower quality, some might say. And those some are correct, because it is just a lower quality bread if you don't get bread flour. You need to get water, which I'm sure most of you have at ready disposal. The water's there now. You're going to need to get your active starter. Now, some of you might not know what that means. That's the yeast that we're using. Yeah, that's the, that actually starts up the bread. Sourdough starters are a common thing that people make. And that's what you use in your bread to make it. That's just, here's an image. Here's another one. Here's a third. Those are all that's clarifying of what you need to get. Or you can make them at home. That's not what this video is about though. We're making the bread, not the starter. You're also gonna need some olive oil. What that's gonna do is be olive oil. And that's good for your bread. It makes it taste not bad. I was gonna need some fine sea salt. Or any salt. Honestly, the salt part doesn't matter a whole lot as long as it's not iodized. See, because the iodized, that's going to jeopardize your dough. Because yeast don't like that. All those good little bits that actually, make the bread taste like sourdough bread, those are jeopardized by iodized salt. So you need sea salt. Or Denny salt, that's just not iodized. And some cornmeal for dusting. Now, what dusting means is when you're just beating the dough and, molding it, compressing it and such, it gets sticky. It's getting all worked up. Some people sprinkle it with flour, but in this specific case, you're going to want to use cornmeal. It's a bit easier for sourdough specifically, as well as it's not going to jeopardize your taste a whole lot since we're using bread flour, not regular flour. Alright, well for baking and the construction of our materials to mash them together, I got it from this website called Clever Carrot. That's your shout out, you people. So what you're going to need specifically is either a regular oven, like everyone has. You also, if you're using a Dutch oven, the ones that are almost no one really has typically, but it's really good for bread. You're gonna need about 5.5 to 6 quart Dutch oven. After mixing, all your materials together, just measurements will be on the side, by the way, if in case you're worrying, and in case me, being me, have forgotten to put it in at this point. It's right there now. There you go. So yeah, just smash it all together, and you get it in your dough. Mixing it properly, so it's like, looks like dough. Not necessarily, processed dough with all the powder already on there, but it looks like it's been mixed up well enough. You can usually tell. So after that, you're gonna want to leave it alone for about 45-ish minutes. It gives it time for the starter and the yeast and everything inside of it to kind of coagulate a bit better, and time to breathe. Don't forget, this is alive because of the yeast and starter you put in there. After your time has passed, I'm gonna use a bit of a fancy term, autolycide. That's a really, really fancy term for it just kind of sat there for a bit and took a bit of a breather. You're gonna want to put it in a warm environment. By warm environment, what does that mean? It's like a bit above room temperature, kind of muggy-ish. 68 to 70 is the average that you should be putting it in there for. Now, of course, the warmer the environment and the wet air, if you will, kind of swampy, some might specify, that's going to allow it to grow quicker, and your time is going to be reduced. I don't have a chart with me on hand here in our wonderful studio of my kitchen, but I'll put a source right here in case you're curious. Now, and if you're putting it in around a 68 degrees Fahrenheit environment, about 68, 69, you're gonna expect for it to take about 10 to 12 hours for it to properly, get up and moving. Now, if it's warmer, it's gonna take less time. Without outright cooking your dough, period, the best temperature, that you can get, it's probably only gonna take you about 3 hours for it to get up and stuff. So yeah, also, during that time of year will also affect this. Yes, your yeast knows what time of year it is. In winter, you're probably gonna be experiencing that 10 to 12 hour range. In summer, you're probably not. The temperature range that I've seen so far, you're gonna want it at like 85 degrees Fahrenheit. 85 degrees Fahrenheit during the summertime is the best time for bread. It's just, that's one that's only gonna take you 3 hours. And then after that, you'll notice, check on your bread regularly. You have your tarp over it, your paper towels, or a damp piece of cloth over it. Just check on it every few hours or so, just to ensure that it's doing well. You'll know when it's ready, when you've seen it poof up a lot. Like it looks like it expanded to its environment. And we'll be explaining why it did that in the sciencey part of this cooking show. Alright, now comes the fun part, where we get to knead our dough. So you take your dough and just... Now this is the time when we're using cornstarch. You know that powdery stuff I was telling you earlier? You remember? We're using cornstarch, where we're getting cornstarch, powder it, and that allows it to, not be sticky. No sticky. Now, what you want to do is keep the amount of dough that you want for your loaf. Whether that be that much, that much, that much. Personally, me, I do this. I only take half, and I leave the other half in the bowl so it can grow and I can get more bread. Now, what you want to do is dig out your bread pan, and with that, put in your piece of dough after oiling up the pan. With a paper towel, cover it in olive oil, then you put in your bread, and you take your bread pan, and you should have preheated your oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. If you didn't, I probably didn't tell you. After it's preheated, put your bread in there for about 20 minutes. You wait till it's golden brown in color, or until you see that nice crack on the top. And for you food freaks out there, the internal temperature you're looking for is 204 degrees Fahrenheit. For everyone else, look for the golden brown color with the crack. Now, what do we need to do now? When you get your bread out of the oven, give it an hour to breathe. So that means it doesn't, get all spongy and gross tasting. After that, it's ready to slice, dice, and eat. Now, what we're going to be doing is now we're going into the sciencey part of it with our microbes and such, the actual parts of the bread. Not ingredients, rather the critters rolling around in there, causing it to rise, give it that sour taste and such. Science time, boys and girls. Alright. Now, what is the science behind our loafy bread of goodness? We have two different kinds of things primarily in these kinds of breads. We have Saccharomyces and Candida. What these are in bread is what's causing it to rise and such. But the specific thing in our bread that surprisingly is not either of those two things is Lactobacillus. I may be doing a voiceover because that sounds a little off. Now, what this does is it exists alongside our yeast, and inside of it, digesting the sugars and other parts of our dough, give it that nice sour taste by releasing certain kinds of acids. These kinds. That's the taste that we all know and love. It's the remains and acids produced by a microbe within our bread that coincides along with the yeast. Well, I hope you enjoyed our episode here in Joey's Food Hole. I hope to see you all again, but in all likelihood, it's probably going to be like another 2 months. Bye-bye!